The sun rises over the land, casting a warm golden light across the forest floor. This is where life begins. Here, Black Native American families moved with the rhythm of the seasons, their connection to the earth deep and unbreakable. They were hunters, their steps silent as they tracked deer through the dense woods. They were fishers, their lines cast into the rushing rivers, pulling sustenance from the cool, clear waters. Every plant had a purpose, every animal was respected. This was not just survival, it was a sacred relationship, a partnership between humanity and nature. They understood that the land provided everything they needed, and in return, they cared for it with reverence and wisdom. Elders were the libraries of the community, their minds filled with generations of knowledge. They gathered the young ones by the fireside, their voices weaving stories of the past and lessons for the future. They taught them how to read the stars and predict the weather. They showed them which berries were safe to eat and which leaves could heal a wound. The children learned to be patient, to observe, and to listen to the whispers of the wind. These were not just skills for survival. They were lessons in character. They were taught to be strong, resourceful, and connected to the world around them, building a foundation of resilience that would be tested in the years to come. This way of life was a beautiful tapestry, woven from threads of tradition, community, and respect. Each member of the tribe had a role, a purpose that contributed to the well-being of the whole. The men who hunted shared their catch with everyone. The women who foraged and farmed ensured that no one went hungry. There was a deep sense of interdependence, a recognition that they were all in this together. Life was lived in harmony, not just with the land, but with one another. This unity was their greatest strength, a powerful bond that held them together through every challenge and every celebration. Imagine a world where your identity is as clear as the water you drink and as solid as the ground beneath your feet. This was the reality for Black Native Americans before the ships arrived. Their history was written in the landscape, their songs were carried on the breeze, and their culture was alive in every daily act. They knew who they were because their ancestors had walked the same paths and honored the same traditions. This profound sense of belonging was the inheritance they passed down to their children. A legacy of pride and strength that defined their existence and gave their lives meaning and purpose. Then, everything changed. Colonization arrived like a storm, tearing through the fabric of their existence. The land that had sustained them for generations was stolen, fenced off, and remade in the image of the newcomers. Suddenly, hunting and fishing on ancestral grounds became trespassing. The deep spiritual connection to the earth was severed by force, replaced by a system that saw the land not as a partner, but as a commodity to be bought and sold. This was more than a loss of resources. It was a profound spiritual wound, an attack on the very core of who they were as a people. The assault was not just on their land, it was on their very identity. In the 20th century, a man named Walter Plecker, Registrar of Virginia's Bureau of Vital Statistics, wielded his pen like a weapon. He was the architect of a paper genocide. Driven by racist ideologies, Plecker systematically erased Native American identity from official records. He created only two categories for people, black or colored. If you had any known black ancestry, you were classified as colored, and your native heritage was wiped away with the stroke of a pen. This act of bureaucratic violence denied thousands of Black Native Americans their history, their culture, and their legal recognition. Think about the devastation of this act. Your birth certificate, the official document of your existence, becomes a lie. Your family's history, passed down through generations, is declared invalid by a government official. Plecker's policies were designed to enforce a rigid racial hierarchy, and in doing so, they created deep divisions within families and communities. People who had always identified as Native were now legally erased. This paper genocide was a quiet but brutal form of violence, stripping people of their heritage and leaving them adrift, their identities questioned, and their communities fractured by externally imposed labels. The consequences were catastrophic and long-lasting. Without official recognition, tribes lost their legal standing and federal protections. It became nearly impossible to prove their lineage and reclaim their ancestral lands. The stories of their elders were dismissed as folklore, and their identity was reduced to a checkbox on a form. This systematic erasure was a deliberate attempt to destroy the cultural memory of Black Native peoples. It was a calculated effort to make them disappear, to assimilate them into a racial binary that denied the complex, interwoven history of Black and Indigenous peoples in America. The struggle to reclaim that stolen identity continues to this day. After the paper genocide and the loss of land, Black Native American communities faced an enormous challenge: how to rebuild a life from the fragments that remained. They were forced to navigate a world that refused to see them for who they were. The deep-seated unity that had once defined them was tested as they scattered to find work and safety in a hostile society. The journey was filled with hardship. They faced discrimination, not only for being Black, but also for being Native, often finding themselves caught between two worlds, fully accepted by neither. It was a lonely and difficult path, a constant fight for survival and dignity. Yet, the spirit of resilience, forged over centuries of living with the land, did not die. It lived on in the stories whispered to children, in the traditions practiced in secret, and in the unbreakable bonds of family. Like the great leader Frederick Douglass, who declared, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress," they understood that their freedom and identity had to be fought for. They held on to their culture with fierce determination. Families became the new keepers of tradition, the last line of defense against complete erasure. Grandmothers continued to teach the old ways, even if it was just in their own backyards, ensuring the flame of their heritage would not be extinguished. The struggle for land became a central part of their fight for restoration. Owning land was not just about property. It was about reclaiming a piece of their stolen sovereignty and heritage. It was about creating a space where they could be themselves, free from the judgment and restrictions of the outside world. Leaders like Malcolm X spoke of the power of land ownership, saying, "Land is the basis of all independence. Land is the basis of freedom, justice, and equality." This message resonated deeply with Black Native communities who knew firsthand that without land, a people have no roots. The call went out for people of color to pool their resources, buy land, and create self-sufficient communities. Rebuilding also meant strengthening the family unit, the cornerstone of their culture. In a world designed to tear them apart, sticking together was an act of resistance. Families provided the emotional and spiritual support needed to endure. They became small tribes, preserving their history and values against all odds. The elders, with their wisdom and experience, guided the younger generations, reminding them of who they were and where they came from. This emphasis on kinship and mutual support was essential for healing the wounds of the past and laying a new foundation for a stronger, more resilient future for their children. Today, we stand at a critical juncture. Our children are growing up in a world dominated by screens, where answers are just a Google search away. They are losing the ability to think critically, to solve problems with their own minds, and to connect with the world around them in a meaningful way. We must ask ourselves, what are we losing in this exchange? We are losing the ingenuity and resourcefulness that defined our ancestors. We must encourage a return to the old ways, not to abandon technology, but to balance it with the timeless wisdom of our heritage. We need to teach our youth to observe, to listen, and to trust their own instincts. This return to our roots is a call for unity among all people of color. The systems that created the paper genocide were designed to divide us. We must reject those divisions and come together in solidarity. As Martin Luther King Jr. taught us, we may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. Our shared struggles and common goals should be the foundation of a powerful alliance. By buying land together, supporting each other's businesses, and creating intentional communities, we can build a new reality. We can create spaces where our children can grow up proud of their full heritage, surrounded by a community that affirms and celebrates every part of who they are. The family must be at the center of this revival. Strong families build strong communities. We must recommit to being present for one another, to supporting each other through thick and thin. Let our homes be places where our history is honored, where our stories are told, and where our values are passed down. Let us be the elders our children will one day remember, the ones who taught them how to be resilient, compassionate, and wise. The strength of our future depends on the strength of our bonds today. We must hold each other close and remember that our collective power is our greatest asset. The path forward is clear. We must look back to move forward. We must reclaim the traditions that gave our ancestors strength and purpose. We must honor the resilience of our Black Native American relatives by fighting for justice, reclaiming our identities, and rebuilding our communities. Let us turn to the land, to each other, and to the wisdom within us. It is time to unplug from the noise and reconnect with what truly matters. It is time to teach our children the lessons of the earth, to build a future where they are not just surviving but thriving, rooted in the rich, powerful legacy of their ancestors.